When you are doing any work, you have got to get into the toilet position. Now, I know it sounds a bit crude to some, but you know, using the toilet is quite a natural thing. It's essential to life, you know, the whole cycle of release, I should say. Why does your child never finish their 11 plus paper? Some papers your child will finish just on time, others there's seemingly big chunks of sections that they just can't ever seem to finish. I know you're probably pulling your hair out. Exams are literally just around the corner for the grammar schools. The independent school exams aren't that far behind. I know you need a solution and you need it fast. So before we carry on with this amazing video, please remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications so that you will get notified every time a new Geek School video goes up. Enjoy! Hi, I'm Joyson Akufo. A big welcome to our regular geekers. Hello! And if you're new to this channel, I'm the Managing Director of Geek School Tutoring. We are specialists in 11 plus tuition. We're based in Beckenham and Catford, and we also provide tuition online. And we also work with children in reception all the way to GCSE for maths and English, along with all the 3 sciences. So, why don't children finish their 11 plus papers? Well, let's break that down a bit. You know, as I always say, these days, the term 11 plus is that umbrella term for grammar school exams, and parents tend to use the term interchangeably, and that's fine as long as we are all on the same page and understand what we're talking about. So, let's start off with the grammar school papers, and within those there are different styles of papers and the timing differs on the different style of papers. So you've got the GL papers, which in my view the timing is very accurate and sensible. Children who've been well prepared can generally finish the paper and have a few minutes to spare, at least 5 minutes there, sort of, depending on, you know, how confident and well prepared that child is, to be able to go through and check their work on the GL, definitely, I would say. Some papers, on the other hand, are designed in the most ridiculous way. I mean, children can get a section, you know, with maybe 30 maths questions and they've got something like 9 minutes. If you use the CGP maths books, you'll see that, you know, in section B the timing is crazy, and definitely in the 9 to 10 at the 11 to 12 9 to 10 and 10 to 11 books, even section A has some interesting time frames for children to finish the questions on. Who knows why they do this? I mean, maybe they've forgotten that this paper is going to be written by 10-year-olds, many of whom, you know, the grammar school selection test, the 11 plus exam, is the first exam that they will ever do. Some of these children haven't even been tested in school, and to go to an unfamiliar school with hundreds of other children that they don't know, and then to be given a paper like this is just unthinkable. Really? However, you know, it's very doable, and so this is what we'll also be talking about in this video. So I want to apologize for the squeak that you guys can hear. Can you hear that? Oh my goodness, I have to just disclose that for some reason I've got a very squeaky chair, and every time I gesticulate you can hear a bit of a squeak, so apologies. But anyway, so back to the timing. Obviously you have the CSSE, which I believe is accurate as well. The independent school entrance exams are also very fair and accurate where timing is concerned, and if children are well prepared, they're able to finish the paper comfortably. So here are some reasons why children often don't finish the paper. Now, if we look at maths individually, children who are not well versed in their timetables take much longer to work through the paper. Now, timetables 1 to 12 should be something that comes to them like clockwork and really should have been honed in and finalized by year 3. If you have a child that's still stumbling, repeating the question 6 times 7, for example, back to you before they answer the question, counting, drawing sticks and all sorts of things, they need to sort those timetables out as quickly as possible. Use the doubling method, because that is probably the best way to get them really confidently learning a whole chunk of the 12 times tables, and it will have a huge impact on their experience with learning maths in general. Children who often struggle with maths, as I've mentioned in other videos, if you are one of our long-term geekers, the children who tend to struggle with maths often struggle with their timetable knowledge as well, and this is what tends to be a stumbling block. Children who don't know their timetables 1 to 12 off by heart are usually the ones that don't finish their papers, because the speed at which they're working through their timetables, i.e. trying to calculate timetables rather than applying it to the answering of the question, they tend to struggle. You know, so another child would have done maybe 3 or 4 questions. That child is still on the one, you know, desperately trying to connect from one number to the next. And, you know, if you're looking at a 50-minute paper, 30-minute paper, whatever case it may be, cumulatively, you know, all that extra time that they're taking to work through the timetables adds up. So this is something you need to really hone in on. Download one of the free timetable apps. I prescribe, like medicine, spending 10 to 15 minutes on the timetable app every day, and it really does help. It goes a very, very long way. I'm not a fan of learning timetables by rote. We've got better systems now. I'm not a fan of having these massive posters and so on either. The apps, I believe, get the job done, and get the job done very, very quickly. So definitely investigate that. I am not affiliated with any of the timetable apps, so I don't generally recommend any particular ones. So I just say download a free one. You know, they're all more or less the same. It's that whole reward system, you know, whether they're collecting coins or, you know, whatever the app developer has put in place in the app. The idea though is that everything's sort of jumbled, so they have to think on their feet, and then obviously where mistakes are made, the answer's shown to them, and they can really learn a lot from there. So that's timetables. I'm going to talk about seating. I always say to my students that when you are doing any work, you have got to get into the toilet position. Now, I know it sounds a bit crude to some, but you know, using the toilet is quite a natural thing. It's it's essential to life, you know, the whole cycle of release, I should say. Obviously, I'm not going to demonstrate what the toilet position is on YouTube for anyone who has access in the world to see. But, you know, maybe we'll put a video in to show you, or a picture. Let's see what happens via the editing process. But the toilet position, okay, straight back, you know, legs down, both hands. Obviously there are no desks in front of a toilet, you know, unless you have that type of bathroom or toilet. But you know, the upright position, both feet firmly on the ground, you know, to give that stability. And with that, we want to make sure that, let's just say, you know, your child is right-handed. The left hand will hold the paper steady while the right hand does, you know, the writing, the working out, and so on. Many children will be twiddling their hair, biting their fingers, and then the worst of all, you know, you've got the elbow on the table, and then they're trying to do everything with one hand. And I always say to them, why do you think you have two hands, two arms, two hands? It's so that you can use them both. And the issue is, where you've got the elbow action going on, that will by default slow your child down. They're in too much of a relaxed seating position anyway, so the sharpness of thought, sharpness of mind just isn't there. And then the other issue is, the hand that's doing the writing shouldn't also be trying to keep the paper steady. I mean, after a while, you know, the wrists at least must ache. It just doesn't really make sense to work in that way. So this is another thing to speak with your child about. It's very, very important that the seating position is what it should be, because it does slow children down when they're writing with the elbows on the table, twiddling with this, that and the other, because seemingly the other hand doesn't have anything to do. But then both hands have a purpose. That's why we have two hands. Okay, so then the other culprit for not finishing the paper is just being overcommitted with some of the questions. So let's just say in a verbal reasoning paper, there are 85 questions to be done in 50 minutes. Children need to be able to confidently move on to another question or another section if it's allowed in the exam, and then come back to that question or section if the answer or the process required to derive the answer doesn't come immediately. As I say to my students all the time, it doesn't make sense to lose 10 marks or more just because you want to solve one question. Wouldn't you rather leave that question out, it's 1 mark, and go and get another 10 marks? That makes more sense. So many children are too afraid to move on and leave those questions, and that's not what will help them to get their best in the grammar school papers. There needs to be a boldness and confidence about them in managing the paper. You know, they need to be able to think, okay, I'm stuck on question 3, I'll move on to 4 and do the rest and then come back when I'm done. That type of thing is very, very key to their exam success. And then finally, we speak about timing. Now, timing tends to timing, yes, of course. Finally, we speak about timing in terms of using a clock or a timer before the exam. So every child should have a timer. You can even use one of these kitchen ones. We have quite a lot here. Trying to find this particular one from IKEA, but typically one of my children has clearly moved it. This is what happens in the Akufo household. Things go walkies and then they end up somewhere else. But anyway, so even these, you know, kitchen timers, you can see, you know, it has the minutes. So you just wind it and use it in the practice of the papers, okay, and the books. All the books tell you the time it should take to do that paper. if your child is struggling to finish exam papers within the time, I would recommend taking off 5 or 10 minutes and then building it in, you know, saying, oh, okay, you haven't finished, I'll just give you 5 more minutes then, so you need to speed it up. That tends to help really well, to be honest. It works quite well in creating an awareness of the sense of urgency of the time and so on. And this is a good technique to use for maths, and it's a very good technique to use for English as well. A lot of children struggle with written comprehension, the timing of it, and many of them struggle with the timing for the creative writing task. For the creative writing task, I've actually created a timer video which is in the channel just for that, but you need to really encourage your child to use a timer. It builds an awareness of time and it trains them, you know, to start working faster, and it also trains them to be aware of, you know, how much time they have left and so on. So those are the main areas that you can use to help your child complete the exam. But all of this requires practice. It's very important to get some practice in before the real day of the exam. So that's it, geekers. I hope you found this video useful. I am looking forward to reading your comments, as I always do, and I want to take this opportunity to invite you all to make sure you've subscribed and you've pressed the notification bell, so that you are one of the first to get notified whenever a new video goes up. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.